But today we're continuing our focus on the London mayoral election on May the 6th, with the latest of our interviews of the candidates. Now, Dr. Peter Gammons is UKIP's candidate. He's a motivational speaker, an award-winning best-selling author, and he joins us now. Dr. Gammons, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks very much for inviting me.
Can I ask you then, first of all, a basic question, what can you offer the people of London?
I'm fighting for everybody in London, and I feel that especially working-class Londoners are being neglected. They're not being consulted. It's almost like a fake election because the BBC have given 10 hours each to three left candidates and given me 3.5 minutes. It's like they want these people to win. I'm the one that's fighting against further LTNs. I'm the person that's trying to stop the expansion of congestion charges because it only penalises poorer people who can't afford to go out and buy a new electric car. I'm fighting for the cladding victims. I'm the person that's standing up fighting for the working class. But all of the people that they're promoting have this Marxist agenda. And so I want to get police stations restored in every community. I want to see the police out on the beat. I want to have truly affordable housing instead of what they call affordable housing. Bailey's pushing for this part ownership, 100,000 houses for 100,000. I'm looking at between 100 and 200 derelict sites to build starter homes for young couples in London. I have so much to offer London, so many policies that people would support if they heard about it, but I'm beginning to feel now that it's a bit of a fake election because, for example, the newspapers, Metro told me they weren't going to cover my campaign from the beginning, and so they're pushing Bailey, but of course even the Tories appear to have abandoned Bailey. I was out the other day campaigning and they didn't even have any of his literature out. And so they're pushing just these three, the Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, who share the same agenda. And so Londoners, how can they vote for you if they don't know about you and don't know what you're standing for? Everybody who's seen my policies and campaigns says they'd vote for me.
Well, speaking of which, look, UKIP was crucial, obviously, in Brexit. With that issue now gone, what does UKIP have to say to voters? What about post-Brexit London?
Yeah, absolutely. That post-Brexit and post-COVID London are so important, and I believe that London needs rescuing. The thing is that UKIP was not a fight just about Brexit. UKIP was about democracy. We stood up to the elite at Westminster and forced a referendum. We said the people need to decide, not the politicians. And that has been the history of UKIP. We've been fighting for democracy. We've said the people decide, not the politicians. Because, for example, up north, there were Labour candidates who were voting Leave, but all of the members of their constituency wanted to leave, and they were voting Remain. And so UKIP has been about standing up for ordinary working class people and saying the people need to decide, not the politicians. And the same thing is happening now with this election, and it's very sad to me that they're just promoting three people with the same agenda. Well, they're not letting people know the options. So.
Yeah, all right. Well, you're on Bloomberg Westminster. We're giving you a platform.
Thank you.
So let me just say, okay, let me ask you then, in specific terms, what would you do, for example, about Transport for London, the crisis of transport in London? What would you tell voters that you would do in detail?
Well, the first thing I'd do, I'd look at what's efficient. During lockdown, Cairns kept the trains running all the time when they're empty. I've done a few of my Twitters where thank you for my own private train and my own private station. They could have cut 4 out of 5 of the journeys and still no one would have waited more than 10 minutes and they've been able to socially distance. It's ridiculous that Cairns paying £500,000 salaries to people for a business that's failing. It's something like 4 billion journeys on the London Transport for London network a year. If it doesn't make money, something is seriously wrong. He paid bonuses.
But hang on a second. On that, let me pick you up on that issue. The Transport for London. In the UK, London is one of the few big cities where they fund TfL via ticket sales. That's not true in other places. And a lot of campaigners say that is the fundamental problem and that the pandemic has sort of broken TfL because people have stayed home, had to stay home. But now the kind of government needs to answer that sort of question. And that's going to be about the relationship between the London mayor and central government.
Well, Khan always makes excuses, but the reality is he's wasted billions and is wasting billions on all kinds of things. What was it like? Supposing 100 million on taxi rides and coffee machines for the staff. all these bicycle lanes that is put in, which is causing the congestion and the pollution in London. So Transport for London is a broad network, and Khan's bankrupted it. He bankrupted it before COVID, used COVID as an excuse. If somebody make Transport for London work with the billions of users a year, then something is wrong. It's only government-run things that run at a loss. I'm sure that if it was privatized, and I'm not pushing for it to be privatized, but I'm sure if it was, it would make a profit. But it's run so inefficiently. As I said, there's so much waste. Khan is wasting billions and then blaming COVID for it. So,
all right. Well, let's move on to a different subject, which is also very key. We know that for a lot of people after what happened in the last few months. What about safety and security, especially for women, and policing? How does that all work together in a way that's going to do the best for Londoners, male and female?
Yeah, it's so important that Khan has said that women are not safe on the streets. We need to do far much more. And these LTNs that they're putting in are one of the causes of the problems, because now women are having to be dropped off. Instead of at the home, they're having to be dropped off on main roads and walk, sometimes through dark roads, to get to their homes. There's so much more that needs to be done. I want to put 8,000 new police in. I want to put police on the beat. I want to reopen police substations in every community, which is so important, because so many crimes are not getting reported now because people have to go online, fill out forms, or by the time the police get there, the event has taken place. Take Chiswick, for example, with the vandalism that's going on there since they closed down the police station. It's so important that the police are there, that we have police where there are danger areas, we have more CCTV cameras and all kinds of things so that we can do more to protect them. We need to do more for youth. We need to open youth centres in every community. There is a direct correlation between the closing of youth centres and violent knife crime and gang culture. And so there's a lot more that needs to be done. I wish I could cover it all in the short interview, but I have many plans, so many plans.
And in terms of funding for those plans, I mean, funding for police on the street, and also you mentioned housing. Again, the idea of how that is funded, building all of these new homes that London does obviously need. You know, how would you manage to do that?
Yeah, well, there's a number of things. Number one, of course, I'd cut tons of the waste, billions of waste that Khan has at the moment. One of my more adventurous things is my London lottery. I've already set up a London lottery where all the profits go back to projects in London, and where we make new millionaires in London every week. But that's just one of the side issues. We need to use developers that are not just interested in building a few houses and making millions out of it. We need to work more with smaller developers. As I said, I've been looking at these 100 abandoned and derelict sites and looking at putting up homes, 100,000 homes for 150,000. Because the bottom line is you need to work with developers who are happy to make a little profit from the houses. But what we've done is we've built far too many luxury homes in comparison to affordable homes and social housing. And so we have these developers who want to make $250,000 on every single property. And unfortunately, the Labour and Tory governments, the Labour and Tory councils are giving the contracts to these people who are just interested in themselves. Well, we have to look at it. There's acres and acres of Transport for London land where we could focus on building affordable and social housing. But take, for example, Olympic Village. They just built luxury homes. Sorry.
Peter, let's focus. Let's just take one other thing. You are with UKIP, which obviously is very closely associated with Brexit. There are a lot of people in the city of London at all different levels who are losing their jobs to some extent because their jobs are moving to other parts of Europe, other European centres, because of Brexit, because of the issues to do with financial services. And that's caused immense problems. They're going to look at you and say, why should I vote for someone from the party that engineered all this, aren't they?
Well, COVID's made a difficult situation. It'll be very hard, and it's only when we start to get back to normal whether we see whether it's been a benefit or of harm. There are people who believed in leaving the EU who have said that it's been better. There have been people who have complained, but it's very hard to make any comparisons when lockdown has been in process to see the benefit of it. And so afterwards we'll see. I believe it's beneficial. Look at the money we were sending to the EU every month. And taking away all of the laws, all of the control from Britain. Europe has not been good in the way they've dealt with it. They've tried to punish Britain, and so hopefully we'll get over that. They tried to show all the other countries, don't you think of leaving it, and made it very hard for us.